Hi everyone, my name is Karl Orvik. I am the resident artist in violin and viola at the University of New Hampshire. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the New Hampshire All-State auditions, specifically for viola, the requirements for viola this year. The requirements for the audition are in three parts. There's the scales, the repertoire, and then sight reading. Today, just because I have a limited amount of time, I'm going to focus mostly on the repertoire, which is the Telemann G major concerto, the first two movements. I just wanted to give a couple pieces of advice for the scales and sight reading before I start with the Telemann. The scales, unlike the violin version or the violin requirements, the scales for viola don't have a metronome marking. They're written in eighth notes and no slurs as well, no bowing articulations. So I would suggest you go a little slower so that the judges can get a sense of your tone. So not too fast. Maybe a quarter note in the mid 50s. Okay, really remember tone and intonation are sort of the key things with your scales. Of course, keeping a steady beat as well, but yeah, more about the tone and the intonation. The scales also have to be memorized, so use the fingerings, try to keep as consistent and a fingering that you can maybe use the same fingering for multiple scales, so you don't have to remember a lot of different fingerings. When it comes to sight reading, just remember you can practice sight reading anytime you've got pieces in a book of pieces that you haven't done, or etudes that you've skipped over. Those are all great sight reading ways to practice your sight reading. Remember that the important thing with sight reading is rhythm and keeping steady, trying to be accurate with as many different rhythm patterns as you can. And then intonation is important, but more staying within a key, making sure that you are aware of what key you're in, and making sure all the accidentals are there and that you've noticed them. Okay, so let's move on to the Telemann. The Largo movement, let me just start by playing it. This tempo, remember that Largo refers to the half note in this case, since it's written in 3/2. So it's not the quarter note that is Largo, it's the half note. So I'm thinking in the mid 50s again. This is 56. Okay, so it has a little bit of movement, but it's still Largo. Okay, I'll just play a little bit for you. Ready? Okay, so just a few things to talk about here. First of all, make sure you're subdividing those dotted quarter notes, ba, 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 so you can be really accurate with the placement of the eighth note. I tried to avoid open strings where possible so that I could keep a fairly consistent vibrato. Means going into second position sometimes and using your fourth finger, but I know you can do that. I think if you noticed, when you're not playing with accompaniment, my rule that I follow is that I count the rests if it's a measure or under. If you have more than two measures or more than a measure of rest, then I wouldn't count all those measures. And in this piece, sometimes you have 3 measures of rest, and in the second movement, you've got 4 measures of rest. So I think it's okay to not count the rests if it's more than a measure, if you're not playing with accompaniment. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but the trills are played. So stop the trill on the 5th quarter note, or the last quarter note that you would be trilling. So you have that, and then and then shift up so that last note can be vibratoed. But you can play the open string. Let me just jump quickly to the cadenza. I wanted to just show you what fingerings I'm doing there. So I'm going to start, let's see, measure in the middle of measure 40, okay? So here, obviously that's just my interpretation of what to do in the cadenza. You can do other things. I kind of played it straight in the first run, and then on the second one, so you can take more time on the second one. Also, in terms of bowings, my general rule is try to follow what's printed in the part that they've recommended, which is the International Edition. But it's okay if you make a few modifications, fingerings and bowings. Remember, do not use the Suzuki edition, because nothing against Suzuki, but it's actually different notes in the 2 editions, or different, like, you know, it doesn't go up to the higher octave here in the cadenza in the Suzuki version. So make sure you are using the international version for this. Let's jump ahead to the second movement. Here, I believe a good tempo would be for a quarter note. This is 96. I'm just going to play a little bit of it, and then we'll talk. Ready? Not going to count it because it's 4 measures rest. Okay, so let's take that much. First of all, the thing that is really important with this one is that 3rd note. So a lot of people play this. They yank that 3rd note. I think it's because you see a tied note coming up, and we feel like we need more bow, and so we kind of adjust that way. But you really don't need a lot of bow for this note. You just need that much. So it will really affect the phrasing if you get into the habit of. So try to keep it all. Okay. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm adjusting one fingering here, so, or bowing, I mean. Here, not retaking, but still going down. And then no slur there. And I employ that, sort of apply that throughout, because I like having those 6/16 notes all in the same articulation, which is just separate. Let me just quickly, because I know I'm running out of time, go over the end, because the end gets very difficult with how high it goes. So I'm going to start in measure 122. These eighth notes that I'm about to play, just notice, try not to get down bow heavy. Try to keep them all in some kind of equal pattern. And you know, a lot of times you can make crescendos, you can do a lot of things with dynamics, but you don't want that lumpy feeling. So I'll start from there. 1, 2. So what I did for fingering, third position here, shift, stay, shift, harmonic, shift, third position, shift finally there, which is marked. So, yeah, this is a lot of fun. I love this concerto, and I hope you have fun playing it and working on it. I should sign off, but please feel free. My contact information will be visible after this video is done, and feel free to reach out. Your teachers are your primary source of information, but I'm happy to be an extra source if you have any questions and would like any advice. Thank you so much.